Hey everybody, I'm Lance Shanes. Thanks for tuning into Higher Living. So today I want to go over something I learned firsthand from my experience years ago, and I also kind of fell back into the trap, but I want to focus on today 5 benefits that I've personally experienced from tuning out the news. So there's news constantly 24/7, and with all the world events going on right now, it's kind of hard to avoid it, and it does have an impact. I think it's Jim Morrison that once said, "Whoever controls the media controls the mind." And there's a lot of groupthink in it. There's a lot of fear that's put out, that's perpetuated. There's a lot of division, and it's set up that way. And some of the emotions that I used to realize, and why I finally quit tuning into the news, was I used to get angry. I would be incensed. How dare someone do this? How dare someone do that? And it clouded my judgment. And this was, it was probably early 2000s that I made this change. But I used to get worked up in the political stuff, and was so divided that and I think that's what news in general and a lot of times is going to do, and it's going to keep us divided. It keeps us in fear. The great majority of the news stories, open up any news app, they're all rooted in fear. Go read the headlines. It's absolutely hilarious being away from it for a while to come back to it and just tune in and just see. It's really almost a completely different experience when I look at news now. But, it's keeping us divided, and it's important that we learn to come together. So the first benefit that I noticed of tuning out the news was happier, healthier thoughts. And that's a big product of it. We're conditioned based on what we allow into our realm. And if you're making a habit of watching the news or reading the news, staying on top of the news, making that part of your daily practice, you can't help but be impacted negatively by that. You just can't. You can't watch things, and our brain, that's part of that subconscious, that's part of that programming. But when you're constantly, watching news, you're limited. You come from a place of fear and frustration. And I noticed that when I tuned it out, I became a happier person. I had happier thoughts, healthier thoughts. Not so much on what's wrong out there. It just frees up your ability to focus on other things, and pretty much anything but the news is going to be better for you to focus on. Number 2, less fear in all areas of my life. And that was one that I didn't really expect, but it's true. And the more that we're conditioned to fear, if you watch, let's say, the evening news for 30 minutes, you're going to get so many scary things presented at you. Not only will you get frustrated and have those fear emotions, I realized too that I was more afraid of life in general. And when because it's conditioning, and when we're constantly bombarded with fear, bad things, what might go wrong, it's tough. We become conditioned to look for that in other ways that aren't related to the news. It is true. What we put in is what we get out too. So just be aware of that. And that's one thing that I was really happy to notice, that I just had less overall fear just from tuning out the news. I remember a story distinctly. I was at one of my son's practices or sporting events, and I remember it was whenever the plane disappeared in, I don't know, 2000 something, I don't know. Some plane mysteriously disappeared. And, it was very telling, because I heard these 2 ladies talking about it, and they were really worked up. Some plane had disappeared. They didn't have any family on it. It was somewhere around the world, but it's just not good for our psyche. And they're sitting there at a kid's sporting event talking about some disappearing plane. You're going to hear it anyway. That's one excuse some people say. Well, I want to be informed. I have to be able to watch. It's 2020. This is not 1980. You don't have to go out and get the newspaper every morning to get the news. But tuning out the news and watching it is going to help you in many ways. And then that number 2 is you're going to have less fear in your life. When you're bombarded with fear, you start to look for fear everywhere. When you're bombarded with good things, you look for good things everywhere. Number 3, more present. I truly was more present. And the main reason is because when you're in that fear-based place, oh, what if, and you're bombarded with news that's negative and scary, your mind goes to what if, whoa, what if I get sick? What if this happens to me? That's not being present. It's not being present at all. If it's not happening right now, it's not real. So by not watching the news, it just allowed me to be more present. And being present takes more practice on your own. It's not just turning out the news, but that's a definite benefit that I got from tuning it out. Number 4, and I love this one, more critical thinking. I was able to learn to think for myself, and I think that we all fall in that trap of just buying whatever the narrative because it's on the news, because the news said so. You know, we have to learn to think for ourselves. And I like to boy, it's windy here. I about got some stuff blowing in my lap. But anyway, like, we need to learn to think for ourselves again. Thinking is becoming a dying art in this country. And if you're making your decisions in your life based on what the television is telling you, television, great acronym I heard, telling lies to your vision. But if you're relying on that, you're not thinking for yourself. Do your own research, okay? There's going to be one narrative coming out of the news, but there's other things, and it's time that we all individually. I'm not here saying somebody's right or somebody's wrong, but by tuning out the news, you're going to do more critical thinking on your own. And boy, do we need to wake up and think for ourselves, as opposed to just having this group think. Oh, this, because it was on the news, and then everybody buys in. No, think for yourself. Make your own decisions. We're in a time in our world where that's very important. And it's a dying art, especially in America, thinking for yourself. So tuning out the news, that's another benefit. And the last benefit that I realized after tuning out the news was that I got along better with others. Let's face it, when we're watching news, and especially a lot of political things, like, you're going to naturally know people on both sides of the political spectrum. And, you know, it ties in religion and everything else, but like, everyone's so divided right now. And if you're constantly watching news stories about this party or this party, it makes you view people in your life that way. You know, well, that person's a Democrat, that person's a liberal. No, we have to put all that stuff down. And by tuning out the news, those differences between you and another person that might have a different political affiliation, religious background, whatever, by not focusing on the negatives, it allows you to get along with people better. It allows you to see them for who they are. So these are just some benefits that help me. And I'm not telling you to turn it off. I've said that before. I'm encouraging it, but it's just not good for you. And these are some benefits that I didn't even really realize ahead of time. So once again, happier, healthier thoughts, less fear overall in life, more present. You're going to be able to be more present in the moment. And that's the only place life happens, is right now. Number 4 is more critical thinking, and I encourage that. If you're living your life based off what's coming out of a TV, just wake up and at least make your own opinions. At least do some other research. And then number 5, get along better with others. Because when we're not constantly reminded how we're different, we're able to more easily focus on how we're the same. We're not divided over issues as much because we're not focusing on those issues. When you're focused on divisive news issues, divisive political things, or, you know, hot topics, we tend to view someone else we focus on that. And when you're not focusing on the negative, you're able to be more open and get to know that person for who they are and not view them as a this or a that. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're having an awesome day and a happy now, because you can't be happy yesterday and you can't be happy tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.